What's up, dirtbags? Episode 115, Midwest Angler Podcast. Scott Sturman, Matt Deitch, the same as every other week for 114 weeks prior.
Except for the times I'm gone, and you got to bring in, the
B teams.
Or the C.
Yeah, the C.
That time when you had Stu the Noob, that was kind of like bringing in the freshman.
Yeah, it
team.
wasn't good. It wasn't good. But, you
throwing some junior high kids out there versus the varsity team.
Right. The show must go on. And,
that's right.
Yeah,
we're here.
Is what it is.
Episode 115, like you said.
Episode 115. Aside from a potential state record up in North Dakota for the new walleye record, 16 and a half pounds.
Yeah.
That's potential. I have not seen that's been confirmed. I'm sure that, the DNR needs to take a look at it and get things figured out on that. But it looks like that could be happening. And, that's a second 16-pound fish
in the last couple of years, and there's a lot of people that
since October.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right.
And I think Jason Mitchell caught one on that body of water that they figure would have been up there, and he didn't pursue it. So a
lot of people are predicting that it's going to get broke yet this year. Again, this spring. I really think in the next few weeks that, the potential of another 16-plus pound walleye coming out of there could happen. So
holy moly.
Yeah, if you're looking at a trophy walleye fish, and get up there to Lake Wahi in North Dakota.
Yep. And bring us along with you because we are experts, and, we'll show you where to get them, and, you just you pay our way up there, Yeah,
well, we'll reel them in for you. You net them. We'll let you net them, but we'll reel them in.
Yeah, well, we'll let you have one rod, maybe. That's the price you pay to go fishing with a couple of experts, and
that's right.
So hopefully one of you guys is willing to pay it. Preferably somebody with a really nice boat and a pile full of money. So, well, that's that. No, otherwise, I don't think there's a whole lot of news. We're in that goofy in-between spot right now, Matt. And
it's that transition time where, a lot of the smaller rivers are starting to open up, and some of the smaller bodies of water, but a lot of the main lakes still are holding ice, but it's bad enough where you can't get out on it to fish. And
exactly like I said was going to happen.
Right. Down here is that way. We're getting some rain right now, so maybe that'll help it go pretty quickly. And if it gets to be a windy day, they're starting to get some pockets of open water out there, and it can get it to go pretty quickly.
Yep, and we've got more rainy, snowy mix, here for a while. Thank God. Did you see down in Colorado? There's like a spot that they were predicting or did get like 91 inches.
That's ridiculous. I could not imagine that much snow.
Can you imagine walking out of your house? You don't get to walk out of your house. Like, what do you do?
You'd be pretty helpless feeling just sitting in watching it pile up. I guess before it ever happened, you'd want to go out there and get the shovel and bring it in the house, so you could shovel your way out of the house.
Just to take a step out of your front door. I don't know. Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, I apologize to them. I think I saw baseball size hail down in Texas.
Wow. Yeah. No, thank you.
Yep.
They can keep it down there.
And we're up here in Iowa just kind of scooting along, like no big deal. So, well, whatever. Sorry about that. Is what it is. You know what? We're going to give away a shirt right now.
Giving away a shirt right now.
We're going to give away a shirt right now. We're 4 minutes into this podcast, and we got some new shirts here a while back. I won't guarantee that I've got every single size that every single person wants, but I've got some.
Everybody likes a giveaway.
Yep. And if you guys, if you're listening to this, I know some people have messaged me and said, hey, do you got an extra shirt? I don't got much for sweatshirts, but I do got some t-shirts. Message me and I'll get one sent out to you. Otherwise, hold on, I'm trying to come up with what our Gmail account is. Hold on, it is MidwestAngler1 at gmail.com. MidwestAngler1, and that's the number 1 at gmail.com. Email that email and just say, All that it's got to say in the email is just the word dirtbags. And then you're entered in, and I don't know, maybe next show or sometime in between, we'll randomly pick one. But dirtbags to MidwestAngler1@gmail.com. You'll be entered. Yeah, that's that.
That's it.
That's that.
Free shirts.
Yep. This week we've also got Bassmaster
Elite Series on Pickwick.
Yep. So get your lineup set if you're in the fantasy fishing deal.
I got a feeling it could be a good tournament.
You thinking so, huh?
I think
setting up good.
I think that it's going to be a pretty competitive one, and I think that you're going to see some nice fish caught. I mean, I'm not going to say like some big giants like down in Florida, but I'm saying like the consistent
5-pounders.
Right.
Yep.
So
gonna take in the mid-20s every day, and
to put you up there towards the top. I feel.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it should be a fun one.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we got a cool show today. Scott Mackenthun, a buddy of ours from up in New Prague, Minnesota. Scott works for the Minnesota DNR as a fisheries biologist. As much as we don't want him to listen to this, Scott's one of our good buddies, and he's a very, very intelligent guy, knows a lot about fish, and we thought, golly, we got to have him on. That's the last nice compliments we're going to pay towards him, because after this, I mean, it's just shots after shots after shots. But no, we've been looking forward to getting Scott on, and we finally got him. So with that, we're going to go over to Scott. All right, and we're here with Scott Mackenthun. Scott, if I was to call you a name, do you think the Big Apple biologist is all right?
No, I don't think that works very well. No, I don't know. I've had a few different nicknames through the years, and Scotty Mac, Scooter. That one doesn't fit too well.
The
if I move to New York, maybe.
I want to know, do you guys think that Scott is the most popular name in the outdoor, like in the fishing industry? Because there seems to be a lot of Scotts out there.
Oh, there are a lot of us out there for sure. It is, certainly when all of us head out to the Black Hills for Craig Oilers hooked on hard water, there's Scott Olson, Scott Merwin, Scott Brower, Scott Mackenthun, and that's all the good Scotts, I think, right?
Right. But you forgot to mention the Scott that got first place. Well, not first place, but first place in all the Scotts this year in the pro tournament, and that was yours truly, the Big Scott.
Yeah, what was that, like 1/16 of an ounce that separated all of us?
Hey, I mean, does it count?
It counts, baby. It counts. Right. I don't want to take that away from you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, before I really truly, when I was thinking about setting this interview up, I'm like, we cannot have this thing fly off the rails right off the bat. We've got to actually get some information out of you. So normally we start off any of the episodes where we actually talk to an angler with a couple of random questions. Scott, I want to know what's your favorite kind of pie?
Ooh, I got to say my wife's grandmother's blueberry pie with wild blueberries, which if you play your cards right, you may get a piece of it.
Ooh. How Minnesota is that?
Right.
Like, tame a black bear to get yourself a piece of pie. Okay, one more. So say you're going to be eating a steak, perhaps maybe a big old ribeye of Cox beef. How you cooking that steak?
Oh, an aristocrat, medium rare.
Medium rare, okay.
Is there any other way to eat it?
Well, I mean, it depends on if you want to get slapped or not.
Exactly.
All right, Scott. Obviously, fishing's a big part of your life, and like almost everyone else in the state of Minnesota, fishing was probably a big part of your life very early on. How did you first get into fishing, and what are some of the earliest fishing memories that you have?
Well, I was a farm kid. I grew up just west of Minneapolis, St. Paul, about 60 miles on a farm. We had dairy cattle, farrow to finish hogs, so we'd grow them and raise them up to market size. We had a pretty diversified farm. We had corn, soybeans, sweet corn, peas from the local vegetable plant. We had growing contracts with them. We had wheat and oats. We had a little bit of everything. And the farm was incorporated between my dad, my uncle, and my grandfather. And so, there was a lot of time outdoors doing different chores, helping out. You get a pretty good understanding of life and death and nature and the natural world on a farm. And I was probably, so like a lot of farm kids, I was in 4-H. I was also in FFA and, participated in the natural sciences. So you look at all the different, if you ever go to a county fair and you look at the 4-H program, they're going to have the natural sciences. They're going to have shooting sports, fishing sports, exploring the environment, wildlife biology, geology, forestry. They're going to have a whole bunch of these different project areas that you can kind of learn within. And I was kind of a fishing fool as a little kid. Couldn't wait to go. We couldn't get away from the farm very often, but I could pedal my bike a couple miles down to Lake Marion. I could go with my grandparents that lived a mile down the road. Once they were semi-retired off the farm, they had a little trailer on the Horseshoe or Sock Chain up by Cold Spring, Richmond area. Kind of famous in Minnesota now is, it's a little bit of everything, a multi-species fishery that the Sauk River runs through. And I try to visit it pretty regularly for channel catfish through the ice. But they had a little trailer up there, fished as much as I could. And pretty quickly, one of my 4-H projects when I was 9 years old and in the second grade was to go to the local fisheries office and interview someone and learn about their job. And up to that point, I wanted to be a dairy farmer. But when I sat down and did this interview, I was like, holy cow, this sounds like an awesome job. I want to do this someday. And I sort of set my goals to it. The person that I interviewed at the Hutchinson office was Chris Kavanaugh, who just retired, just a couple weeks ago. And, all these years later, I'm actually, when we're not in a national pandemic, I'm actually in that office working as the area supervisor in the same role that Chris had. So that's in a nutshell how I kind of got to where I am today.
Very cool. I mean,
pretty full circle right there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think, I don't know, like when I was a little kid, I think I wanted to be a police officer. And I remember, one kid at church was always telling me that he was going to be a firefighter down in Sioux City, but I don't know, I mean, how often does a kid actually end up doing what they set out to do, especially in the same city that you set out to do?
The same job that you interviewed.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, how did you get to that spot? Obviously there's schooling that's involved in that. Where was that at?
Yeah. So, you wanted to build up a pretty good resume. And I mentioned being in agricultural extracurricular activities. I was in sports. I was in all kinds of different things. Tried to put as much on a college application as I could, and certainly had to pull good grades. I looked at a lot of different schools in the mainly surrounding states where we had reciprocity, and ultimately I just decided to go to the University of Minnesota. They had a fisheries program that was pretty highly ranked at the time. And I stayed there for 4 years. And at the end of my 4 years, I started looking at graduate school programs, kind of the same song and dance at the University of Minnesota. I was blessed to spend 4 years working in a fisheries genetics lab with Dr. Lauren Miller, who's now spending some of his time with the University of Minnesota and some of his time with Minnesota DNR. I tried to do some undergraduate research projects and, tried to build up a decent kind of resume and curriculum vitae, a list of your life's experiences for short, and, apply to grad school, take the graduate record examination and move on. And after looking at some offers in Illinois and Arkansas, I saw this really attractive thing that was really geared for me. It was a deal that one of the fisheries research people in DNR, Jack Wingate, he's gone now, but he was looking to recruit through the university pipeline and build some connections there. And they had this program where you could get placed into the DNR if you went through your graduate school program successfully, and it gave you a chance to work in a couple field offices in the summer. So it was almost like a glorified work study. I spent time at central office for DNR working there. I worked at the Lake Superior station, and I worked at the Walker station. And once I was finished with graduate school, then I was able to sort of go into an opening, and that opening was at Waterville. I started there in 2008, came on as a fisheries specialist, kind of our entry-level biologist position in the state of Minnesota. Worked there for 6 years, continued to work there for 2 more years, but actually worked as actually back up a second. After 3 years, I had promoted to the assistant supervisor, then hung on for 3 more years. And at year 6, then there was an opportunity to do a regional habitat position that I worked on for a couple of years. Somewhat as a surprise to me, the Hutchinson station where I am now, that supervisor retired what I would call on the early side. It was good for him. He was good at managing his money. I've known him for some time and have stayed in contact with him here after his retirement. But was able to interview for that job. And sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time. I won't deny that. The graduate program that I referred to earlier, I think it ran for 2 or 3 years before it was shuttered. I mean, it wasn't really a sustainable practice for the agency to continue piping in new people as the agency constricted. So it, or contracted, I should say, shrunk the number of fisheries employees they had. So, again, I'll be the first to admit I've been really fortunate that way. And, maybe I've put in for positions that there haven't been as many folks that have been interested in them, but you just got to put your best foot forward and do the best that you can. And I'd like to think that we're working on enough different things that are unique at our office, that I've learned a lot of different skills, that I've tried to work on different things and represent the agency in a good way. So it's been good. I've had good feedback, and certainly it's been fun to interact with our public as well as some of the media folks. And certainly that's a kind of a side gig for me too.
Absolutely. Now, when you were a senior in high school and you had decided, okay, fisheries biologist or a fishery biologist is what you wanted to pursue. Now looking back, is there more to the job than what you thought when you were a senior in high school, or is it about what you expected?
Man, so I'm kind of known for having this terrible memory, but I think I kind of knew what I was getting into in terms of this is some of the work you're going to do, but I don't think you ever get your head completely around the issues that you deal with, either the depth or the breadth of the issues, or how the social side of what you're doing plays into it. I think they try to prepare students for that.
Right.
Undergraduate or graduate programs, they try to prepare students that, these are going to be, some of these issues are going to be controversial. Some of these issues are going to be very complex. Some of these are going to be more socially decided than biologically decided. And so those are the things you have to sort of learn over time. And, it's kind of controlling what you can control and not being upset by the things that you can't.
Right. I'm sure about that. Now, I mean, with your job right now, what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis, non-pandemic, but, what's a average day look like for Scott Mackenthun?
So, a lot of folks ask that of anyone that works in natural resource management. And the truth is that there is no average day. And that's why a lot of us take this job, right? I mean, there's a very seasonal nature, certainly for the fisheries folks. We're talking in the end of winter next week, the official, official first day of spring hits and our lakes are opening up, we're going to have crews that are going out as soon as our lakes are open, doing winter kill checks, doing northern pike ice out checks, doing some early sampling, stretch that through the remainder of spring. They may be doing some bass electrofishing. They may be doing some walleye population estimates. They may be doing all sorts of different things. I know we've got some special panfish sampling when the water temperatures warm up a bit. Our summer survey is kind of the big operation in Minnesota. Certainly anybody that's listening to this podcast has probably gone, if you're a Minnesota angler, resident or non-resident, you've gone on to mndnr.gov and looked at Lake Finder. You can type in the name of any of Minnesota's 87 counties and pull up the survey history, pull up write-ups on all the information that we collect, read all that. It's a really transparent and neat way to present a lot of historical data that we've collected. That's kind of our backbone of what we've worked on for 50, 60 years, and that'll continue moving forward. And that's mainly in the summer months. And then you get into the fall, it's some more special sampling, some rearing pond work, kind of closing things down maybe with land management, and then moving into the off season. And the off season, winter season, is kind of report writing, meeting with committees, reviewing the work that you've done, reviewing safety plans, training, conferences, just a whole lot of things that you've kind of delayed while you were out in the field collecting information.
Right.
Now, like coming up here, you said, with the busy time with the ice out and doing all the sampling, do you guys put in some pretty long days on those when you're doing that stuff?
You can. I mean, as I think about my time, the longest day I've ever had was like a 16-hour day. And, that was with some, breaks of course, right in the middle of it. But it's, starting early, maybe running fish all the way to northern Minnesota and back, or, jumping out in a boat and doing something that, you're tied into, and then taking a break and later going out for electrofishing. Or we had a lake rehabilitation project where we applied a piscicide. That was one of those really long days too. But yeah, sometimes you get those long days, but we also try to sprinkle in some seasonal help. We do get laborers that are seasonal that come back. We do try to bring on interns from college programs in the summer to supplement labor, and it's a mutually beneficial deal. They're learning about what we do, about our culture, about how to do the job, and firsthand coaching and just that mentoring aspect, and vice versa. We're getting help with pulling fish up, working up fish, taking lengths, weights, scales, all the typical kind of things that we do. So.
What's the one thing every year that you look forward to? You kind of talk about some of the stuff that you do right after ice out. You talk about some of the stuff that you do, at the end of the summer, beginning of fall. Is there one thing that every single year, like, you just can't even wait till it gets to be June 1st because that's when we start doing this? Is there something like that?
That's a good question. Certainly I like the field season more than the non-field season. I've been with the agency now for 13 years, and I kind of sit here and go, I don't want to get to the point where, you start just taking it all for granted, right? I'll never forget one of the quotes from Tim Brastrup, who retired about 10, 12 years ago. He said, he wrote something in his retirement kind of email or release that he put out about how every time he lifted a trap net, he was still excited to see what was inside. And that's kind of how I am. I mean, every time you go out and do some field work, you still want to see what you're going to get. I think the biggest thing that would lay it out for me was, it was 2006, the first fisheries field office internship up in Walker. And we went out to Mule and Blackwater, like the very first week I was interning up there. This was like, right around Memorial Day weekend or first part of June. And Mule and Blackwater are pretty nice bass fisheries. So they're taking me out on this boat on the front of the deck for the first time that I have ever boom electrofished. And at the end of the night, you're going, they pay you to do this? You're sitting there with about a 10-foot long fiberglass dip handled net. And it's like playing lacrosse, right? These fish are getting hit in the electrical field. They're temporarily stunned. You're dipping them, bringing them aboard, and it's a way to sample fish very effectively. It's a tool like anything else. I mean, all this stuff is fun for a couple of days. I mean, 2 years ago, we did a walleye population estimate. And the first couple of days, there's smiles on faces and we're seeing all these great big walleyes. And after 2.5 weeks straight, it's all right. The weather stinks again. And, it's rainy and cold. And I've got a broken off walleye dorsal spine in my thumb underneath my fingernail. And it's, you're kind of sick and tired of some of the work that comes with it. But I mean, anything becomes a job if you do it long enough. There's stuff you're not going to like, but at the end of the day, it still are things that you enjoy. And I'd even say this, I think there's a lot of folks that are like me that love angling, and that's what brought them to this career path. And for some of those folks, there's always the worry of the burnout, like you're handling those fish all the time. The example I gave with the walleye population estimate, like I needed a 2-week break, which I got. I didn't want to see a walleye again for a little while. And then I took some time off, and then Minnesota's fishing opener came, and I was ready to screw around with them again. But it is one of those things where I don't get sick of it. It doesn't make me not want to jump in a boat and go fishing. It just sort of adds to it. It dovetails so well with my interest in angling.
Nice. Now, Scott, you were talking about that shocker boat there, and that's something that I guess I have a lot of interest in because I've never seen it be done. I've never taken part in that. So what exactly is that process? Like, is that something that you do in the evenings, or you can do it just in the middle of the day? How does that work?
Well, you can do it anytime, but the thing to know is you're generating with an electrical generator. You're generating an electrical field. You fire up the gas-powered generator, and you are sending electricity through a set of anodes, and then the boat hull is acting as our cathode. So we're creating this electrical field. You can actually map it out. I guess to try to put it in perspective, the field is probably 7 or 8 feet long. Wide, 7 or 8 feet wide, and it's probably it's probably pretty square actually, 7 or 8 feet wide and 7 or 8 feet long. So it's not that big of an area, but as your boat's moving, you're moving along and you're encountering fish. So it's not like it's an active technique rather than passive. So you're running along. And it only works. Oh, I should mention this too. It only works to a depth of like say 6 or 7 foot. So again, the idea of the vault, if you think about that as a cube or something similar, it's not that big of an area. But and it's worth noting then that limitation on depth of 6 or 7 feet. Once you move offshore, if you're out in the middle of the lake, you're not hitting anything. So it's a shoreline oriented sampling method. So you asked the question about day or night. You can use it either time, but water temperatures matter. And then we typically use it at night for certain species when they're going to be most vulnerable. For instance, we're doing our bass in the spring, and we're doing them at night because then they'll be up shallow, pre-spawn. And we're doing our walleye fingerlings in the fall when the water temperatures cool off. And again, those fingerlings are going to come up close to shore typically as the water's cooling off. So we just know that that's an effective way to sample them from other folks that have used the gear across the nation, and fisheries research being what it has been, and now it's a standardized accepted gear and accepted way of doing business. But you can use it anytime. So you're generating this field. You're going to test conductivity before you get started. You don't want to be running too much electricity through the fish because you can do damage to them. Basically, if you think about it this way, there are ion pathways in your central nervous system that send messages kind of to your muscles to do things, and we're interfering with that ion pathway. Basically, we are causing those fish to uncontrollably move those muscles, so they're actually swimming towards our anodes. And if we're setting it at the right level, there's about 60 pulses, electrical pulses per second. Well, that's usually our default setting. And then we are measuring conductivity, plugging it into a formula, trying to figure out what percent of range for our full our full capabilities of our unit, what we're going to send out. We can kind of turn that down a little bit in our readout. That will actually read as what the amperage is. And we don't want to, put too much amperage through. That tends to, you go from electrotaxis when the fish are uncontrollably swimming to electronarcosis, which is actually killing the fish. So you're a caretaker. You're working for the interests of anglers and conservation for the whole state. So you need to be responsible and caretake these fish. So you're trying to set it low and move it up from there. You don't want to immediately go to level 10 and Friday night fish fry. You got so you back it off a little bit, but you do hit the fish. They swim up. Someone dips them out of the water, puts them into a holding tank where we're recirculating water. They recover pretty quickly. But you do see some gnarly things when you do it. I mean, smallmouth bass tend to go through quite a bit of color changes. I've seen it even in some walleyes. It's remarkable. You look at them freshly dipped. They have the same vibrant colors and they kind of go a little bit pale. They'll recover a little bit, but it hits fish differently. I've also seen, seagulls, in the daytime runs follow behind us and try to pick up fish that are, that we're not dipping. And that's worth noting too. It's, I mentioned earlier, you may just be targeting bass, and any other species, any other bycatch that you're getting, you're not going to dip. So you'll leave some fish behind, but those fish will recover. So that's kind of, I think in a nutshell, enough about electrofishing.
Do you is there, like you mentioned, bass and walleye, are those the ones that you mainly do the electro fishing with, or do you kind of do it for a lot of the different species?
We really have used it for a little bit of everything. I mean, I can remember going into a muskie rearing pond because we had a very high valuation of every single muskie that we produced, that it was worth our time to drive around with the electrofishing boat on until we hit one, and then focus on our effort on chasing that one around the pond until we finally dipped it up and in. So we've used it for muskies, used it a little bit for panfish, for special assessments on panfish. I mentioned bass and walleye. Boy, it's really been, and it's used as a measure on our river systems and on our lakes as well for index of biotic integrity. Basically, Minnesota passed a constitutional legacy amendment 13 years ago where we value clean water, and we're taxing ourselves at a little higher rate to ensure clean water. And one of the ways that we are looking at the health and cleanliness of our water is what are the fish species that it supports, because there are some species that are very tolerant of pollution and some that are intolerant of pollution. So you can go in and look at lakes and rivers that way. One of my colleagues at the Hutchinson office is a biologist dedicated to the Minnesota River. And every year, that's one of his core duties in the month of August, is basically run the entire length of the river, doing index of biotic integrity and trying to get a count of all the species. And we do see, numbers, species richness and species diversity increasing. So kind of nice to use that tool that way.
Yeah. Say Scott and I were along with you, and I accidentally kicked him off the boat, and he fell in the water. Would he piss himself?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm not sure that'd be his first reflex, but we do have a couple dead men switches. Everybody that runs our equipment, you have to have training and you have to have CPR.
I'm just asking hypothetically, just in case I accidentally knocked Scott off the boat. I'm a farm kid. I touched an electric fence, and folks that have told me that have been hit, if you've got a hole in your waders and you're using a backpack unit, or, I can't imagine being in touch with a boom shocker unit, but it's got the power to stop your heart. It's got a power to hurt you pretty good. I mean, it just sort of depends how far into the field you are, et cetera. But he'd probably be flailing around. I mean, I've seen muskrats encounter the field, beavers encounter the field.
we try to let off as soon as we see them, but I'll say we'll roll them, right? If they, because here's the thing, if you're out at night, you're going to run into, mammals are active at night too, right? Otters, muskrats, beavers, they're going to hit the field and they'll do the same thing. They're going to roll up. You're messing with their ion pathway, and they're just like, I'll tweaking out, I guess I'll call it. So, and the reason is it's not a purposeful thing. Like, your head is down, you're watching where the lights are lighting up in front of you. You got these heavy duty spotlights and LED lights in front of you, and it's dark on the exterior of that. So, you can see like docks and boats and stuff ahead of you. You're not going to run into something, but at the same time, like, you may not see if we see a beaver head that's poking up in the water, like, yeah, we're going to just take a break and lay off the juice. But if all of a sudden it swims to us, to try to swim under the boat or whatever the heck it was going to do, it may just encounter that field. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, it's going to deter Scott from going out at night skinny dipping off of his parents' dock, just in case.
No, I guess my biggest takeaway so far on this is, like, I figured you just drove into a real fishy area and said, all right, guys, 3, 2, 1, and boom, you just waited for this, waited for the fish to come up. I didn't figure that, you kept a constant current and just cruising around and whatever got in front of you. I don't know, that not the way that I figured in my mind.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear you say that, because we have to randomize our paths that we run on the lake, right? We can't just go cherry pick to the best looking walleye or bass habitat or whatever. We kind of have to have a representative sample of what's on the lake, and that may include some of the good habitat and that may include some of the bad habitat. And it all sort of depends what the goals of your sampling are exactly. So it is interesting. I have heard stories of, you run into people that run out on a metal dock and then you shut everything down and you talk to them and tell them what you're doing. They used to think that, if they only see you out there every couple of years or, every so often, a lot of, and I think it's changed now that bow fishing has become more popular, where they see a boat out at night with lots of lights on, and a generator running. But, back in the day, I'm sure you attracted a lot of attention and people would run out and, is that a UFO landing on the lake? What's going on? So, or if you saw a dog, dog running out, swimming in the water at you, you don't want to shock a dog, but like I said, you kind of know where that electrical field is.
Yeah, it only happens once. No, God dang it, what the heck? Oh, you talked about beavers, you talked about muskrats. What's the wildest thing? Have you ever had a fish that it's like, holy smokes, like, they're not native to Minnesota, they're not supposed to be here? Have you ever had anything real crazy like that?
Well, I haven't come into anything that's not native, but you still do see native fish that are very rare. I remember helping out with some electrofishing at Granite Falls, and I have yet in my career to handle an American eel. I'd like to catch one on the hook and line, and I've gone out and tried to get them, although it's kind of a needle in a haystack thing. And I did see one for half a second when we were up at Granite Falls, but they're real, you can miss fish. That's part of the equation, is you're counting on not being able to dip everything. And that fish just managed to squirt out of the field very quickly. Some fish do, some are better at escaping than others. And the American eel is one that is very challenging. We did see that one. We dip a lot of blue suckers. Those are always cool to see just because they're a species of special concern. I remember electrofishing on a lake that had a history of flathead catfish stalking, and I had been in touch with the Lake Association. Some of the members had been catching fish in the lake, which to me suggested there has been natural reproduction ongoing. But we don't have sampling gears that effectively sample channel catfish based on the kind of type of lake that it is and how deep it gets. It just so happened that we made a run out on this lake for walleyes one night, and there was a flathead up shallow feeding, and it just was in the wrong place at the wrong time where it was vulnerable to our gear. So we did we did shock up like a 30-pound flathead in this lake that, I know there's a remnant population, a resident population, a self-reproducing population, but you just don't get to see them all that often. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Ever see any potential state record fish?
During my internship up at Walker, there was a smallmouth bass caught in a gill net at Little Boy Lake that was flirting with the state record. We've had some close calls. I think anglers have to in Minnesota anyways, anglers have to certify their fish as state records with, they have to have a weight from an official scale. The Department of Commerce Weights and Measures will certify the scales every year. And they have to, not only do they have to get it weighed on a certified scale, they need to bring it in for 2 biologists to do the identification on. So we've had folks bring us some really big fish in. I think I saw a rock bass and a greater red horse, but unfortunately, both those folks that brought those fish in were, either pounds or ounces shy of the record. Still a very nice fish, but not quite enough to get the record.
Now, Scott, you age fish, correct? You can age a fish?
That's correct.
How does that process work?
Every species has a little different preferred structure that gets used. There's quite a bit of research and time that folks have put into unlocking the best ways to do it. And for every species, it's a little bit different. But basically, the overview is this. We, all the folks here in the Midwest are in a temperate part of the world where fish have a definitive growing season and non-growing season because, again, they're cold-blooded. They're only going to grow during the warm summer seasons and kind of the shoulder seasons that surround the summer. And then at some point, the water's cool enough that they're really not going to grow. They're just going to run the metabolism. And you see that distinction when they're laying down daily growth rings. You see that on scales. You see that on any hard part structure. So it could be taking apart the vertebrae and looking at that, sectioning those. It could be taking a fin ray section. It could be taking a spine section. It could be taking a set of bones out of the skull that are called otoliths. Otoliths are used quite a bit just because they tend to be a little more reliable than scales. And scales, if you ever knock the scales off the side of a fish, drag it across the carpet before you release it or something, and you lose some scales, well, those fish will actually regenerate those scales. They'll grow them back. But the regenerated scales aren't going to have all the annuli that the scales that the fish has had its entire life would have. So, we tend to use the inner, if we are gonna kill the fish anyways, then we want to take, otoliths. We might want to take a spine, whatever we can. If we're going to release the fish, you can still sometimes clip a spine off, disarticulate a catfish pectoral spine or dorsal spine. You can take a scale, but basically, you take these hard part structures, you section them, you look at them through either a microscope or a microfiche reader. There's some other, finer methodology to it with either immersion oils, cracking and burning, taking the photos at very high magnification and sharing them with other expert readers and trying to see if you can agree on an age, share it with others, send it to a lab for otolith microchemistry for, review and age validation. I mean, it really depends just how deep into it you want to go.
Now, I'm thinking about this like a rings on a tree, I mean, are you, when you come up with an age, are you fairly confident that you can get it, very close, or are you looking at it and it's like, that one's probably 10 to 15 years old or, something like that? Or do you know, no, that's 13. I'm counting them right here, 13.
It's a little bit of both. That's a great question, Scott, but it is a little bit of both. You sum it up well, and that's the analogy we use. It is like dendrochronology, where you're reading rings on a tree. We're looking at the rings the same way. It's partly a science and partly an art. And like I was saying earlier, there's different methods for different species. And with some, especially when they're young, you're very confident. And then with others that are very old and rings, annuli, I should say, start cutting into each other because there's less definition, or maybe the growing season wasn't really long, or something happened in the life history, it becomes much more challenging. And that's where you do want to seek help from others that have been doing it for a long time. But there's no substitute for experience with reading fish age.
Now, do you so think about a walleye for say. I mean, do you like it? Is there a model that you're thinking like at 8 years old, I like to see that fish at 22 inches, or does it matter all on, what body of water it's in, the food that it's got, or is it pretty basic? Like, I was reading earlier today and they said that walleye that they recorded one time, a 29-year-old walleye. I mean, is that seems, obviously that's pretty near as old as me, but I mean, do you like to see, all walleye get to about 20 years old? Is that something, in your studies that you believe should be, or I mean, do you get what I'm kind of saying here?
A little bit, Scott. I think some of your questions are really rooted at they kind of get at the importance of aging. Like it's not glamorous. It is not glamorous. Like sitting in the wintertime, as our biologists and technicians do in the state, and reading ages, it's not very glorious, but it is important to what we do. Knowing what the growth rates are on fish, knowing what length that age is, doing back calculations, figuring out what that growth is. All that information is pretty darn important. And then when we look at a fishery as a whole, this is the quantitative side of the job of, okay, you're going to estimate, if you do a population estimate, which we don't do a lot because it's a lot of work, but what your composition of sizes and ages are, what the breakdown is. So it is very important to know. And to your question about the walleyes, I mean, it's going to depend what the sex of the fish is, because males and females grow at different rates, how productive the system is and what kind of forage they have, where they're at, productivity of the lake itself, and how long the growing season is. All of that sort of factors in, and we do see huge differences in Minnesota from southwest to northeast, as you can imagine. Both growing season, productivity, all that factors into it. So I partially answered some of that question. I think you were looking for, like, is there a particular length at age or growth that I like to see?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Take the main body of water that you work with. That's a walleye fishery. I mean, in your area right there, what lake would that be?
We were looking at Collinwood, one of our big walleye fisheries here recently.
Okay,
I don't have the
right, but I mean, say an eater walleye at 17.5 inches. I mean, what would probably be the average age of that fish?
I'm going to guess probably 4. It's either 4 or 5. We have unbelievable growth in that lake.
Wow.
But we're also looking at trying to decipher how we want to set up our structure reading and growth, because we're going into Collinwood every couple of years, and we know that our walleyes start to recruit to the gear at age 2, which is amazing. That's really fast growth, but it's not the whole cohort that recruits to the gear. So the ones that do recruit to the gear, we're having questions internally. Are we biasing our sample because we're only getting the ones that are recruiting to the gear, and they're blowing up what our growth is? How those outliers could be influencing the growth of other 2-year-olds, or how we're perceiving other 2-year-olds, or the whole entirety of the catch. So that's a little inside baseball on how we're using age and growth. But I would say if you're asking me, a 17-inch walleye on Collinwood, it's probably 4, but 4 or 5. I shouldn't say definitively 4. It's probably some are 4 and some are the faster ones are 4, but probably 5.
Yep. Okay. You said recruit to gear. Is that what you said?
That is what I said. Yep.
What does that mean?
All right. Thank you for asking, because I skipped over that. So
you explain it, because I don't want to. Scott doesn't understand me very well when I explain that stuff. So you better explain it to him.
There's a lot of different
reproducing, or what?
No. So there's a lot of different ways we can use the term recruitment, and it can be confusing for some. I mean, you can go out to Google and look it up, and you get a lot of different answers. But, when I say recruit to the gear, I specifically mean our fish are large enough to be captured effectively by the gill nets that we use. So Minnesota DNR uses gill nets that are 250 feet long with 5 different panels, 3/4 of an inch. This is mesh size now. So 3/4 of an inch holes, or mesh size, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, and 2 inch. And we've been using a standardized gill net like that since the late 1950s. It gives us a good way. The gill nets are set in the same locations and typically within the same week of the year. So we've got really good repeatability. It's almost like running an experiment. How many fish are you going to catch? We like to think that that is a good measure of relative abundance, of how many walleyes are out around the lake. We don't have an exact count of how many are in the lake, but relative to the whole fish community and relative to year, we have an idea of abundance. So when those fish are about, Charles Anderson would be the expert on gear net selectivity, and he just retired, but 10 to 12 inches, we'll start see maybe even lower, less than that. Maybe you get some 8 inchers that are going to show up in your gill net, but you really want them a little bit bigger than that to really know effectively that you're going to capture, say, 90% of them, that they're not just going to bounce off the net or swim right through the holes. That catchability and the size of those fish, the gill net selectivity is pretty darn important, and it impacts how many fish you catch. So does that make a little more sense about why some of those fast-growing 2-year-olds are going to show up in the net, but the ones that aren't quite as big and don't grow as fast aren't?
Right. And so that really is kind of like an insider term. Like, the biologists use that term. Somebody that's not in the Minnesota DNR is not going to use recruit to the gear.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like a cowboy term down in Mullen, Nebraska.
Mooney zone.
Exactly.
Kind of like piggin strings.
Yeah, piggin strings, sewn latigos, all sorts of stuff like that. Okay. Okay, that makes more sense now. No, Scott, obviously we could probably sit here and go on and on and on and on and on about this forever, but sometime, in the future, I don't know when, but me and Matt were talking about it. We would like to do a show with you where maybe we actually have listeners send in questions, ask a biologist or something like that. And obviously we're not going to let people send in stupid questions, why don't you do this on my lake, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I think that there's a lot of questions here, and stuff, that even people in Iowa, you're a fisheries biologist. You kind of, you got a pretty good understanding no matter where these fish are, but I don't know if that's something that you'd be interested in. We would certainly like to do that sometime.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And there's no bad questions, even, if people are frustrated with some of their fish management. I think, asking the question of why is it done that way helps them understand a little bit more. I have no problem. I know I'm going to talk to people that aren't going to necessarily be happy or agree with the decisions that we make, but I just ask that the same as I'll listen to them and try to understand where they're coming from. I ask that they do the same, and yep. I share with them what I know on the inside of it. So you bet.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've gotten to a point in the show where we're going to discuss a couple lake names.
The old lake names. Now, it seemed to go pretty good last week. Scott got them pretty good. This week, these come from you, but I'm not letting him look forward at the list. He only gets to see them one at a time.
One at a time. But
yep.
So you've got to spell them out for the listeners, so they've got to be able to guess them.
I'll let you spell them out because you got to read it. It'll help you process and maybe like enunciate.
Okay, so number 1 would be LAC space COURT space OREILLES. So we're going to go Lac-Court Orioles. Lac-Court Orioles.
All right, so I submitted these. These are Wisconsin lake names. Lacouture.
Lacouture? Really?
Lacouture, yes.
You're making that up. Lacouture. God dang it! I kind of want to move to La Couture. That's about as much
kind of sounds
fun.
like something we used to chase back in college.
Okay. You can laugh, Scott. All right, number 2. Kinnickinnic River. Kinnick River.
Kinnick. I think we'll give them that one.
I mean, I'm from Iowa.
I was going to say, when
when
I first saw Kinnick, I was like, oh, he'll get this one.
Yeah, the Kinnick. Kinnick. Yeah, that's fun. I like that. Really? Okay. So number 3. God, you are such a freaking jackwagon. So apparently it's not. It's Brian Bro's last name, and apparently I've been pronouncing it wrong the whole entire time, and I got to hear about how I pronounce everything wrong on Hooked on Hardwater. But I'm going to say it's Brosdale. And I know you call it Brosdal. I think it's Brosdale.
Brian Brosdal Lake. I'm glad. See, I want you to keep saying it the wrong way because we like that. We like the things that you do that make you authentic.
That's Brosdale. That's what it is. All right, number 4. CHEQUAMEGON Bay. Chequamegon Bay. Chequamegon. Shawamagan. Who decided that this is how this is going to be spelled?
The person that didn't want to pronounce it. They're just like, we're just going to call it this.
Yeah.
Yep, a lot of Chippewa names in Minnesota and in Wisconsin, and this is one. So this is a fun fishery. I mean, these are all worth checking out. The Kinnickinnic's got some nice trout. La Couture is known for its muskies. Shawamagan Bay up by Ashland Bayfield. Beautiful fishing, on Lake Superior.
That's Chippewa?
Yes.
Now, whoever decided that we were going to spell this in English, they are the real screw up. Like, I mean, Chippewa, yeah, they speak the language that they speak, whatever, but whoever the English person was that decided, this is how I'm going to spell it, man, they failed. All right, last but not least, number 5. Golly, with the start of this one, I feel like this is a setup.
No, this is a setup.
All right, BUTTE space DES space MORTS. Bout des Morts.
Butamore. Yep, Butamore Lake in southern Wisconsin.
I wasn't that far off on some of these.
No,
you're always right around the ballpark on them.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a well-traveled individual. All right, I didn't fail, and it's Brian Brosdale. All right. Well, Scott, I don't know. That's about all we had. I didn't fail too bad, and so I'm proud of that. It's a feather in my cowboy hat, if you know what I mean. And, unless you've got something else, if you want to take a shot at the Coxes before we drop you more than certainly can. Otherwise, no. Like I said, we'd really like to get you on here in a few weeks, and I don't know, few months, sometime have an ask the biologist segment.
Yeah, no, I would welcome that. For 2 years, I've been ripped on this program, so to finally be able to come on here and set the record straight.
We've done nothing but spoken highly of you and your knowledge. Your knowledge.
We've always said good things about you. The only thing that we say is that you are from Minneapolis, and I mean, let's be honest. How long does it take you to get to Target Field from the front doorstep of your house?
Ooh. I'd say that's a solid hour.
That means you're from around Minneapolis.
That's all right. I love the little podcast that could from Pig Love, Iowa. You gotta love it.
That's right.
All right. I'm looking forward to get back together with you guys. I know we get together at Hooked on Hardwater. We'll do another couple trips in between, and Ask a Biologist sounds like fun. And Matt'll carry the water. We're gonna have to throw some harder. Maybe the listeners can get in and send some harder lake name questions in.
Send them to me, not to the podcast page, because Scott will be cheating then.
Stump the Sturman.
There we go. Stump the Sturman.
So. All right, Scott, we appreciate it. Hopefully we can get fishing with you before, but otherwise I'll see you at June for that Boundary Waters trip.
Sounds good.
All right, see you, pal.
Bye-bye.
And there goes Scott Mackenthun of the Minnesota DNR, and just an all-around dirtbag.
Yeah.
All-around dirtbag.
Maybe one of the tallest dirtbags there is out there.
Yeah. I mean, we've said it before. I mean, he's not a very good talker. I mean, he ain't much to look at. He's not a very good fisherman, but if you need something put on the top shelf, he's your guy.
Dude can change a light bulb like nobody else.
Yeah. Maybe two at the same time if you got a 6-foot spread in between them. No, we appreciate him stopping in. Like I said, we've wanted that interview for a long time, and hopefully we can get him on here again. Maybe one of those guys that we just have on, every 12 to 15 episodes, just to kind of explore what's going on up there. But
it's always nice to have him for our fish identification. There's a lot of times where we're like, hey, text them at night, like, what is this?
And I've done it. I've done it a lot of times where, a buddy of mine catches a fish and they ask me, hey, what is this? And I'm like, golly, I have no clue,
But we know
looks
who does.
like some sort of send him up a picture, and I mean, he can. I truly believe Scott can tell you. Like I one time sent him a picture of a sunfish at my buddy's pond, and he knew of the parents. It was like a green sunfish mixed with a pumpkin seed sunfish or something like that, and he knew which one was the male and female of the mix. And I mean, hey, kudos to him.
That's right.
Kudos to him. I know. I don't know. I don't know what I know. I was going to say, I know. Something. I was trying to come up with something about food that I knew, and, I know if it's a Jack's Pizza or a Tombstone Pizza.
You know what type of wood that they used on the smoker by just, one little taste, a blind taste.
That's mesquite mixed with a little apple.
That's right.
Had a little apple left in that Traeger grill. Yeah, see that? I mean, everyone's got their area of expertise.
That's right.
And that's mine. I mean, hey, is what it is. So, well, I guess I don't really have anything else to do. I'm going to say this again. If you got to this part and you still have not emailed MidwestAngler1@gmail.com, you're missing out. Do it.
And also, if you're in the fantasy fishing and you haven't set your lineups yet,
do it.
If this is before Thursday.
Do it.
If you're listening before Thursday.
Do it.
So get out there and do that stuff.
Yep. So
good news story.
Good news story.
Mine is, I'm going to say, former guest Troy Deedy, friend of the show, finished 10th down at the Red River in Louisiana in a tournament this past weekend. It was the TBF Federation National Championship. So congratulations to Troy.
Absolutely. Past guest. Awesome dude.
Awesome showing down there. The northern guys actually did quite well.
Yeah, so I was going to say. I looked at it after one of the first days, and there was another guy I think from maybe Minnesota or Wisconsin that was up there.
Yep. Yeah, so. Minnesota was in 8th. Ron Mayer.
Okay.
So yeah, Troy did a awesome job down there, Troy.
Heck yeah, good job, Midwestern anglers. So. No, mine is going to be Saturday morning. I went down to the river to cast in a spot kind of known for some walleyes, and a young kid was down there when I got down there. We've talked about him before. It's actually Matt's cousin, but I mean this kid can fish, and so me and him actually sat and had pretty cool conversation about the fish that he's caught, down in that spot, down, in our river, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, no, we had a really good time. Then that evening, my neighbor across the road's son and one of his buddies had gotten back. They had gone to a river like 20 minutes away and actually fished. And, you know, I'm kind of pumped up that some young dudes, I think the guys across the road are 8th graders, and I think the other one's a 6th grader.
Yeah,
you know, the fact that...
Right, yeah, no, keep going.
No, just the fact that, you know, at a young age, you know, this time of the year, you know, I mean, they're not fair weather fishermen. I mean, these dudes are ready to catch them, and I'm just, you know, I'm pumped up that, you know, it's.
We have a group of 6th graders here at school that are really into fishing. I mean, my cousin is really into it, but I also, after class the other day, I had one of them come up to me and ask me, like, you know, I've been down at the river quite a bit because they live out in the country and have a river by his place, and a bunch of those guys sit out there and fish, and he's like, I haven't caught anything yet, you know, like what should I be? He was asking questions on like what he should use and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was asking the wrong guy.
Well, I know. I just said a hot dog and a treble hook.
Yeah, you can BS anybody. That's what this whole show's made up of. So, all right, guys, MidwestAngler1@gmail.com. Email it. And that's that. Out. See you next week. Later. Bye.